Right, I'm backstage in Bristol, the Fleece, and I'm joined by Devin Townsend, the legendary Devin Townsend. How's it going?
I am excellent, sir. How you doing, brother?
I'm very well, very well. Now, you're touring at the moment for Key Addicted, but you've just told me it's also for Ghost, Deconstruction, and the Ziltoid album.
Not Ghost and Deconstruction, no. It's Ziltoid. But honestly, it's just everything I've done up to this point except for strapping, right? But Ghost and Deconstruction aren't out yet, and we haven't had a chance to really learn the stuff, so that's not included.
Ah, right, okay, sorry. But it's sounding pretty good. Sound check is sounding really, really tight. You've got a massively fat sound. How is it that you managed to get that sound?
Oh, lots of carbohydrates, I guess. No, I mean, I put echo on top of everything, I guess, and, echo on top of echo, right? I got a great band and a good crew, and, it's been so many years of doing this now, and honestly, it's gotten to the point where, my world is... everybody's world is complicated, right? But, the life of a tour musician is complicated in different ways, of course, right? But if you're going to commit to such a complicated kind of job, then you got to make sure that the job is, good and that you're making it as good as it can be. And, I mean, this tour has been really good even off the top because there's been a lot of shows that have sold out, right? And with that, I mean, you really got to be able to bring something that's worth it, right? Because if you just kind of show up and phone it in, then I think, not only are people not going to think it's worth it, but you do a disservice to the people who've been paying attention for so many years, right? So.
But we spoke briefly of Ghost and Deconstruction. They're coming up very, very soon. How far through the stage of getting everything ready for release are you?
Well, it's finished now, except for a couple of small changes on the record. On Deconstruction, and Ghost is finished. We're working on the artwork for Deconstruction, and I think 3 months, 2.5 months, and they should be out. And we'll see. I mean, it's a very interesting set of albums, man. I don't think people are expecting it to be exactly what it is, right? It's pretty intense, man.
And they're both being released on the same day, is that true? What was the thinking behind that?
Well, I think if I released either of them on their own, it would give the wrong impression, right? Because if I release something that's as brutal or over the top as Deconstruction, then people would, I think, say, okay, well, that's what he's doing again. But if you release it at the same time as something that's absolutely the opposite, then neither of them really apply. And the idea is just through these 4 records, Key Addicted, Deconstruction, and Ghost, I guess my point with it is look, I'm going to do whatever I want, man. And, I think a lot of times it's you're dictated, what you do is dictated by obviously what sells and what becomes popular in terms of what you've done. But I really needed to make a statement that is just I'm going to do whatever I feel like doing and I'm going to make it really good. And I think that the people who enjoy the things that I choose to write about or sing about or note choices or whatever will be okay, cool. There's 2 more, right? So, yeah.
Which of the 4 albums was your favorite to make?
Well, they all suck to make, right? I mean, they're fun, but I mean, yeah, it was definitely each one of them had its own kind of little technical dramas that go along with it. Key was tracked in a certain way, really analog, and Addicted was super techno-y, and Deconstruction had chorus orchestra and shit. So it was and Ghost was so mellow that it was in order to make it as good as I know it could be, I had to focus on it. There's times where I just didn't want to be mellow, right? So so there's going to be different hang-ups or dramas with each one of them on a technical level. But in terms of favorite, I mean, honestly, they're all the same. Honestly, yeah.
Do you find that you can listen to your own stuff? Do you actually go home and put it on out of choice?
Never. I mean, it's every now and then I like to listen to it just to sort of say, oh, it was cool. I'm glad that it turned out well and it's nice. But, man, I think listening to your own stuff constantly is like swimming upstream in a river of your own semen, right? It's I mean, it's when I listen to music, I mean, the last thing I want to hear is me, man. I want to hear other people do cool shit, right? And I think that's what makes, I think being a fan of music is essential if you want to, present something that's cool. because I think if you're not, it ends up sort of being like, well, you know, it becomes focused on you as a person as opposed to the fact that you're trying to make a musical, like, I don't know, statement or experience, you know. So yeah, no, I don't really choose to listen to my stuff. If I got to put something on, man, it's very rarely like, oh, I think I'll listen to me.
What is it that you listen to then?
Oh man, I listen to dance music, I listen to country music, I listen to classical music, I listen to I'm almost 39 years old right now, and the most precious commodity at this point in my life is like quiet. Yeah, I like that Alison Krauss Robert Plant record. It came out last year. I thought that was really good. I've been listening to this record that Dead Mouse put out recently. I thought was like really good. Yeah, and yeah, but it's like, you know, but again, it's like it's not what I do, right? So it's like I can appreciate it without like kind of analyzing it, right?
Right, well, you've got Z Squared coming up very, very soon, or after these albums. How far along are you with that album? Have you got songs written yet?
I do, in a way. I mean, the way that I write is I work on the theme for a long time, and then when it comes time, like, I very rarely like pick up a guitar and write songs. I sit at the computer and just kind of like start, and then when it's done, I kind of feel like it's done, and then, you know. But the process of writing is at this point 70 to 80% like automatic. You know, I just kind of sit down and just start writing. And you know, before, you know, years ago, I would smoke weed and whatever, and sit around and play one riff for 4 days, right, and never get to the chorus, right. But now it's like really, I just think about the project, I think about the theme, I think about the, you know, how it's going to work together, and then, you know, and then I just start writing. Yeah.
Any news on the story behind Ziltoid this time?
Oh yeah. Ziltoid. He got condemned to the second dimension after the Tuska Festival, and so he's stuck in a comic book right now because he was arrogant enough to assume that like all those people really cared about him, right? And so his arrogance condemned him, right? So now he's stuck in this comic book, but he's trying to get out. But he does realize that in the comic book he can like actualize any fantasy, so he's like making these huge things, man. But ultimately it's empty and it's bumming him out. So he decides to start meditating, and then when he meditates, he realizes that everything's Ziltoid, and that's what happens. On the next record, everything's Ziltoid, man.
I did hear that there is actually a graphic novel going to be released as well. Can you tell us anything about that, who the artist is or anything?
Rowan Voigt, a buddy of mine in Australia, and, you know, he's currently just building Ziltoid's cell.
That's absolutely brilliant. Now, you played Bloodstock last year, which you went down an absolute treat despite some technical problems. How was it for you being up there on the stage?
That was great. I mean, honestly, man, it's like I've had a lot of jobs in my life. You know, I know there's some musicians I talk to, I'm like, hey, what did you do for work before you were a musician? They're like, well, I never had a job. You know, or I sold weed or something, right? But dude, like, I worked like fucking, you know, I worked at 10 restaurants and like sheet metal fabrication places, and I made boogie boards and worked at an industrial bakery. Like, dude, I've had a lot of jobs, right? And almost all of them sucked. So like the problems that we had at Bloodstock or whatever, I mean, dude, you know, it's like in comparison, like, sure, yeah, it's like, you know, I've been yelled at, like we were like yelled at, and like, but it's not anybody's fault, but it was like a shit show up there, and I've been yelled at jobs way worse than that I didn't get up on stage after and play my songs. You know what I mean? So it was great, man.
Have you got any plans for something big this Bloodstock?
Well, the biggest plan I have for Bloodstock is not for it to be a shit show.
But it wasn't last time, so I think everyone's pretty excited.
Oh, I'm stoked, man. And I mean, it's like, I think as well, it's like, what I find is as things become a little more visible, and specifically if what you do is like a little different, you're always going to find opposition, you know, people that are just, you know, like, fuck that guy, right? But I think that one thing, and I think specifically what deconstruction is about, is just like you have to get past that. You have to not worry about whether or not somebody approves or things are good or things are bad. You got to do it because you love it, and if you do love it, make it the best it can be, you know? And if you're doing it from the heart, and if you're doing it because you really want to do it, the people that are into your stuff are going to appreciate it. And that's the reason why I don't do strapping anymore. It's not because I don't like strapping. I love strapping. You know, it's like one of my favorite bands ever, right? But it ceased to be a part of my life, that energy, right? And, you know, I quit smoking, and I'm like 38. I'm not 25 anymore. And the reason people like that band so much, the reason I like that band so much, I listened to City the other day, and I loved it, right? And the reason I liked it so much is because I was doing it for the same reasons that I'm doing Ziltoid now, or that I'm doing Deconstruction now, or Key, or Ghost. It's like the same energy that I'm doing my stuff now is what made strapping then, right? And I'm in no hurry to be a poser, or like, you know, or like lie to people musically just to appease some sort of like thing, right? Like, you know, there's enough bands that are doing that for you right now, you know, and they've all got like tons of cool swag, so go for it.